Welcome to Delingpole, a Breitbart.com podcast. Here is the podcast host, James Delingpole.
Welcome to the Delingpole podcast with me, James Delingpole, and my very special guest. Now, I really am pleased about this. I have been following my podcast guest on Twitter for a while, just because she's immensely sound. Her conservatism is my kind of conservatism. But here is the thing, get this. She is 16 years old. I mean, 16-year-olds are not meant to be this politically aware, and they're certainly not meant traditionally to be conservative. So, Soutiam Goodarzi, welcome.
Thank you.
It's really exciting. We're at the Birmingham conference, and I do you know what? I had actually got you down on my mental list. I was thinking I must get this girl on my podcast one day, but I never imagined that it would be so soon. And here we are. You've come to the concert. This is your first Tory conference,
Yep.
which I think is quite brave of you. I mean, do you not? Is it? Am I imagining things, or is it not quite freaky for a 16-year-old girl to be coming on her own to a Conservative conference and to be so sure about her political views?
Not really, no. I think if you've done your research, then yeah.
Right. So you're from an Iranian background,
Yeah.
and so you were brought up as a Shia Muslim,
Yeah.
but you're not anymore.
No.
And how does one go about doing that?
I was in Britain, so it was a safe thing to do. Just did my research and realised actually I don't agree with a lot of the things that were in the Quran, and yeah.
So were you brought up as a strict Muslim?
Not necessarily brought up as a strict Muslim, but I was quite a strict Muslim myself as a child for a while.
Were you?
Yeah.
What, you said your prayers 5 times a day?
Yeah.
Right. At the right...
At the right time, yeah.
Oh my goodness. So what, you get up at like 3 in the morning or something?
Yeah.
So whatever you do, it seems to me, you adopt enthusiastically. I mean, like, you were an ardent Muslim, and now you're...
Yeah, I mean, I was very young. It was like, because in Iran, when you reach a certain age, you've got kind of like a coming of age ceremony, where it's at 9 years old, but I skipped a grade, so I managed to do that earlier.
Right.
And after that, you just get enthusiastic about it,
Right.
When you go through that ceremony, it's all, the atmosphere just changes.
And did you ever wear any kind of headscarf or veil?
Yeah. You had to in Iran anyway, but yeah, I did.
Oh, so you spent when did you come to England?
I came in 2011, so I was like 9/10 then.
Right.
But obviously I skipped a grade, so I did my coming of age ceremony a year early.
Right.
At 8 years old, yeah.
And are girls in... I know Iran's all different because it's such a big country, but in the part of... Where were you from, Tehran?
No, I was born in Ahvaz, but I lived in this city called Iraq.
Right.
Yeah.
Iraq,
yeah.
Iraq.
It is a very they're pretty religious there.
Are they? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've seen... What was that put you off Islam?
Just what was in the Quran, really, yeah.
What, the treatment of women, for example?
Yeah, the treatment of women, absolutely, yeah. And what was written in the Quran, regarding the beating of the women and...
Well, it's interesting to hear you say that, because you get a lot... I mean, who's that very annoying woman, American woman?
Linda Sarsour?
Yes.
Yeah. I hate her.
She's horrible, isn't she?
She's horrible, yeah.
Why is she so horrible? Help me put my finger on it.
I mean, I have no idea. I think it's for fame, to be honest. I genuinely don't think someone can actually have those views from the bottom of the heart.
Yeah.
She gets the publicity. She enjoys the publicity.
Yeah. There is... But people like Linda Sarsour tend to say, don't they, that actually... No, Islam is not misogynistic. It's empowering. The veil is empowering, and that women are free, and yada yada yada. Tell me your take on that.
I don't think they are, because why is that not? Why do the men not have to wear the veil, or why can't the wife beat the man if the man doesn't obey what they're saying? Why is that not permitted in the Quran? That's what I say.
Well, indeed. Is it? because I know that there are some things that are said in the Quran and some things that are said in the Hadith.
Yeah.
But this is actually in the Quran.
This is actually in the Quran, yeah. It's basically, it says that if you don't obey your husband, then they can separate from you. Like, they can sleep in a different bed and, like, avoid you. And then it's got, like, certain steps. And the last step is the man is allowed to hit their wives. Right,
yes. And you can't do stuff like go out without his permission and yada yada.
I think, well, to be fair, I suppose that is more cultural than it is within the Iran. But I mean, within the Quran. But obviously, you know, it is about obedience. And if the man says no, you can't go out, then you are kind of being disobedient. So that does fall within the categories of that.
Iran seems to be an interesting, but before we move on to what it's like in kind of northern Britain, but Iran seems to be an interesting case in that it's got a very large, educated middle class.
Yeah.
It's run by mullahs. It's a theocracy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty much, and yet at the same time, you've got you can. I mean, can you go around Tehran without a headscarf, or is that?
Yeah, now you can. You are obviously under threat because of the police, but the culture is changing because of social media. The actual culture, people are becoming more open to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we had those sort of demonstrations, didn't we, where one or two brave women took off their veil, and I think are probably doing time in prison for it now.
Yeah.
What were those about?
That's just standing up against the government, standing up against the regime, standing up against the patriarchy. That's, you know, present in the name of religion and with religion in Iran. So that's what they were doing, and you know, they're going through really rough times in Iran now with the economy, with the way women are treated, and with social media, women are realizing that actually there is a different style of life that they can have. And they're taking that opportunity, they're using social media to actually say, why are we different? Why are we not the same as Western women? And actually they're standing up for themselves and they're trying to change their lives to become more Western.
Do you think that this is happening across the Muslim world, or do you think it's a particularly Iranian thing?
I think it's particularly an Iranian thing. I think I think it's quite rare that Muslims stand up against their own religion. I haven't seen that much of it, to be fair.
Right.
Besides Iran.
Right, and do you think it's something because I know that Persians consider themselves very different from the Arab world.
Yeah.
Is it a kind of, or is it? I'm just trying to think what other reasons there might be why Iran and not, say, Pakistan or Bangladesh.
I'm not entirely sure. Well, because Iran is a Shia country, but I don't necessarily think it's necessarily that. I think the government in Iran is outwardly discriminating against its own people. And I think that's becoming very present. And because of the support that you get from, you know, the Western countries as well, a lot of people are supportive of what the Iranian women are doing in Iran. I think that kind of helps and encourages the Iranian women to stand up for themselves. And actually, the takeover from Islam, you know, when Islam attacked Iran, it wasn't like a complete takeover. You know, the language didn't change. You know, not all of the culture changed. There were some of it was preserved. And actually, when you look at that culture and you look at the other type, you know, the other half of the culture, which is the Arabic culture, the Islamic culture, I think the Iranians preferred the one they had before.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. So before, I've seen pictures of Iran in the 1970s, because a lot of, when my sister was at school, a lot of her school friends were Iranians who'd fled after the overthrow of the Shah. So life was good for a certain kind of person in Iran. Was it more secular before the mullahs came along?
Yeah, but women were forced not to wear the hijab then, so it was kind of like a forced way of life, you know, to be kind of, it's not freedom, but you know, to not have the headscarf was like a law. It was a law that was passed.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah. So it wasn't freedom, but it was very different.
Right. So that was another form of oppression in a way, the Shah's period.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Ataturk when he sort of de-Muslimed a lot of Turkey, particularly in the east. So, when do we think? Do you keep in touch with Iranian politics? Is it in your household?
Yeah, my mum does.
Right.
Yeah, but not me particularly, no.
Right. But do you think Iran could be? Because when I hear people talking geopolitical interventions, what should the West do to kind of stave off the threat from fundamentalist Islam? A lot of people say it's Iran we should be attacking, really.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a good idea myself. It would be better, wouldn't it, if there was some kind of internal revolution?
Yeah. I mean, it's quite complicated with Iran because, the internal revolutions have turned quite nasty before. The mullahs right now, that was the result of an internal revolution. The Iranian people turned against the Shah.
Yes.
So I think I can see why people are scared, but then on the other hand, if a Western civilization attacks, that kind of gives room to terrorists to come in and take over. So it's a lose-lose situation in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. So you think probably best to sort of
just
back
leave it
off and hope that they see the light.
The light, yeah.
Are there many? You're still at school, obviously. How many Iranians are there in your part of the world?
I mean, I know one in my school, but we don't really talk. I just know he doesn't know I'm Iranian, but he just said that he did the they did the Farsi GCSE, and that's how I realised he was Iranian. But
do you think people are conscious of race and religion to any great degree in your school, in your classes?
Oh yeah, but they're so obsessed with equality that they become very racially aware.
Right. So in order to make everyone equal, they've kind of become completely obsessive about race. So that's a bit of a contradiction in terms.
Yeah.
So does everyone play the identity politics card?
Yeah, it's very common.
Right. So, because I think looking at you could possibly just about pass as maybe Greek or Southern Italian or Spanish, but you look fairly obviously Middle Eastern. So is there a kind of expectation that you should have because of the way you look and your background, you should accord with certain...
Well, I mean, because I dress very differently to, the normal Muslim type of, they dress very modestly. I don't particularly do that. So kind of that expectation is kind of taken off because they realise immediately that actually she's following a very different lifestyle.
Yeah.
But in terms of opinion, I think they expect me to kind of have that lefty, standing up for immigrants, standing up for, segregation of races, only in order to achieve equality type of politics. Yeah. I think it is very much enforced.
Yeah, because you're not white, therefore you should be against whitey and against the oppressive white hegemony.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
God, that. So you must really trigger them when you don't do that.
I do.
Can you remember any particular incidents where you really
many, and I've only been in this college for a month now.
Oh right. Does it get quite heated?
It gets quite heated, yeah. It's mostly when they realise that I'm an ex-Muslim that it gets very heated from there.
Yes, well, it seems to me that Muslims in Britain are probably across the world are getting sort of more militant and more, we are Muslims and this is what we believe and yada yada yada. Right. Yeah. So you would be an apostate technically.
Yeah, I'm an apostate. Yeah.
And they don't think much of that.
I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure what they think about it, but I mean, some of them are very liberal. Yeah. I've got a friend who I told her I was an ex-Muslim because she asked my religion. I don't just go out there and be like I'm an ex-Muslim. Yeah. She asked my religion and I said I used to be a Muslim. I'm not anymore. And she was against the forced. When Iran forces people to become Muslim, she was against that. The fact that I could easily get killed if I go back to Iran. She was against that. She was a very liberal Muslim.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when I tell some other Muslims that I'm an ex-Muslim, it's very much, so you never believed in God then to begin with? No, I did. I just realised that it's not a religion for me anymore. One of the quite funny cases was in politics, and I told someone, we were on the table and we were discussing religion, and the topic was about how different identities and different groups vote in different ways, most BMEs vote for Labour and things like that. And it came up in the discussion, and I said that I came to Britain, and one of the Muslims on the table turned around and went, "Oh, so you came here to pull boys?"
Outrageous. Yeah. So well, I hope you gave them a mouthful.
Yeah, I was
an earful. So basically, every day in your life is a kind of war.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, I think it's fun.
You enjoy the fight?
Yeah, I quite like it, yeah.
Right. Because, I mean, schools seem to me to be hotbeds of left-wing...
Yeah, they are, yeah.
And so have you got any allies?
Have I got any allies?
Yeah.
I've got a few Tories in my politics class.
Have you?
Yeah.
Did you convert them, or were they there already?
No, they were Tories already.
And who are they? Are they white? Male?
Yeah, one of them's white. She's a girl.
Yeah.
And then there are the Tories, but I don't really talk to them that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here at the Birmingham conference. I think you're the first girl, pretty much, I've seen of your age here.
Right. Yeah.
It's mostly young men. What do you think Conservatives can do to kind of make themselves more sexy to the young?
Just be more active, I would say. I don't think they're active enough in the youth world. I don't think they're active enough, and they're letting Labour paint them as the nasty party.
Yeah.
They are literally letting Labour come in and paint them as the racist, divisive, austerity-driven party.
Yeah.
And they're not doing anything about it. They're not defending themselves. They're not attacking back. Not in the youth world anywhere. It's all well and good going on Twitter and arguing on Twitter. Well, actually, the majority of my friends don't even have Twitter.
Right.
So it's just tactics that they're using. I think it's just outdated, really.
So you're saying that the left really rules Twitter?
No. My friends don't go on Twitter, so they can't see both sides of the argument. If we're constantly on pushing our case on Twitter,
yeah.
I don't think that'll work in the end.
Right.
Yeah.
And presumably your teachers, are they on the left?
Yeah, they're on the left. Yeah.
But do they ram it down your throat, or are they're quite?
My teacher doesn't.
Right.
My teacher's pretty okay with it in general. He's biased, but he doesn't force you to be a Labour supporter.
Right. But you were telling me earlier that you got bloody good GCSEs, and the school you're at now is a sixth form college. Is that right? Which is very academically selective and and you don't want to be. I was kind of quite impressed by this, actually. You don't really want to be a politician, or at least you're going to get a proper degree first. Tell me about what you're going to do.
Yeah, I was hoping to get medicine. I get a medical degree, and then after that, just get some life experience. I think all MPs, before they stand for office, they should have some life experience. I think politics is not a career option. I don't think. I think it should be with a career option, because you need experience in different parts of life to be able to apply that to politics. If you just want to go into politics, you're probably going in with a really narrow-minded view. I think it's important to actually experience a different section of life before you even think about wanting to go into politics.
Yeah, I think I can say this to you because everything you say, we're on the same page politically. But I look at some of the women who are MPs,
mm-hmm.
and I just think, no, dear, you really are not up to this job. It's nice to have women representing constituencies, and but actually, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
You're not a fan of all-female shortlists, are you?
No, not at all. No, not at all. I think they're one of the most stupidest, most derogatory things that have been created against women. I think they're very sexist towards women and towards men. I don't know how you can manage to pull both of them at the same time. But they're very derogatory towards women, because they suggest that women can't get, women can't become MPs if they don't, if they don't have the all-women shortlist, but also they discriminate against the men who could be better than the women.
Yeah.
And I just think it's stupid both ways.
So if and when you run for Parliament, you're going to resist any discrimination in your favour?
Yeah, I will. If there is any discrimination, I won't stand. Right.
You feel that strongly about it.
Yeah.
And I suppose also it's not a very conservative position, I don't think, is it?
No, I think we're about meritocracy. That's why I joined the Conservative Party. It was because I believed in meritocracy, and I don't think that this doesn't represent the meritocracy that values that we've stood for such a long time.
Yeah.
As a party.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's almost frightening because we went and had. Dear special friend listener, we went and had a Wagamama before this, didn't we? And I was just kind of talking to you, asking questions, waiting for the moment when you revealed that you believed in something really annoying and stupid, and the moment never came. You are just like, well, just tell us who your conservative role model is, or heroine.
Margaret Thatcher.
And as you pointed out, she didn't get on.
No, she became Prime Minister without all women shortlist. She became Prime Minister because she had the merit. She had, she was a strong leader. She had the values that the party needed at the time. She was very strong, in the face of the opposition. And that's why she became Prime Minister. She didn't become Prime Minister because she was a woman.
Yeah, well, when did you get into Margaret Thatcher? When did you discover her existence? How old were you?
I was 14 at the time.
Right.
14, yeah.
Was this when you were still a keen Muslim?
No. I turned away.
After.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And how did you come upon it? Through politics classes or?
No, we didn't have politics classes. It was through English literature.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we did Blood Brothers for English literature, and for the context we had to learn about Margaret Thatcher because apparently the play was written against her, so we had to learn some pretty nasty things about her. And I did some extra research, and then I realised actually I agree with everything she's saying. That's how I found her.
Did you get marked down by your teachers for saying unhealthy things?
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, well, you got some pretty impressive GCSE results, so I suppose you must have sort of got past the censors somehow. You're listening to the Delingpole podcast with me, James Delingpole, and my very special guest, Soutiam Goodarzi. I couldn't look up the name in time. Soutiam Goodarzi. More in a moment.
Breitbart News Daily with Alex Marlowe.
Jeannie in Pennsylvania.
I think he's gotten away from what we really hired him to do, which is draining the swamp. If you look at the real picture of draining a swamp, you go in and you take all the water out of it. What does it leave? It leaves the gunk. He cannot get rid of the gunk. We have to get rid of the gunk. Everything he's doing, he's lowering the water so we can see who needs to go. The only way they can go is if we vote them out.
Breitbart News Daily. Weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Patriot 125.
This is Delingpole, a Breitbart.com podcast. Here once again is James Delingpole.
Welcome back to the Delingpole podcast with me, James Delingpole, and my very special and exciting guest, Soutiam Goodarzi.
Yeah.
Got there. And this is your first Conservative conference.
Yeah.
Does it fill you with hope for the Conservative Party, or are you kind of slightly despairing like I am?
It depends where you look.
Yeah.
I think the majority of the fringe events do scare me for the future. But actually, I feel like there is some talent in the party. There is.
So which are the fringe events that scare you?
Oh God, the very politically correct ones, I would say.
Are there quite a few of those?
Yeah, there are quite a few of those. Yeah.
But have you attended any of them?
No.
Because I bumped into a woman this morning. I had to get up early to go and speak at a crypto conference, and she was in the lift, and I politely, she was dolled up, and I said, "Are you here for the conference?" She said, "Yes." And I said, "What are you here for?" And she said, "I'm speaking on a women in industry panel." And I was thinking, oh God, who would want to go and see a women in industry panel at 8 a.m.? It's like, and why should it be any business of the Conservative Party anyway?
Yeah. I mean, I understand if there is like a fringe event about more women being in the Conservative Party in general, because, you know, that it is compared to Labour. I mean, you know, they've got all women shortlist, but it is lacking compared to Labour. I can see why they would want to, you know, make policy that would attract more women voters.
Well, what would that be then? What? I mean, should you really be directing policy at particular interest groups?
I think it would depend. It would depend if originally your policies were directed at a different demographic. I don't think policies should necessarily be directed at any demographics in general. But if you are taking a certain sector of society to begin with, and, you know, you're saying, oh well, this will help this certain, you know, this part of the society, then I can see why you would want to direct policy at women if you are directing policy at men. However, I actually think that kind of sort of approach isn't good to begin with, to take into, you know, to start with.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think, I mean, aren't we just two halves of the same? Yeah,
that's what I think. Yeah. I mean, you know, with childcare, I think that is both a male issue and a female issue. You know,
steady.
I think, yeah.
So, steady. Yeah, now I'm with you. That's right. That's right.
You know, that is both a male and a female issue. So, you know, that is you know, that is a policy that was directed at women. I just think, you know, you should approach it in a I don't know.
Well, so put it another way. How do you reckon, how is the Conservative Party failing to get out its message to your generation?
To my generation, I think, again, they're failing to push the ideology. I think they're very much failing to do that, and it's because they don't stand up for their own ideology.
Yeah.
I think that is the case. You know.
You've noticed.
Yeah, I've noticed. Yeah, they don't stand. You know, they don't follow their own ideology. How can they stand up to other people? I think that is the problem. You know, with the 50-50 ambition, which I think is actually a quota, but an ambition for, you know, female and male candidates. I think, you know, if you're saying you believe in meritocracy and then you're introducing quotas, I think that is a very, you know, you can't go out there and be like, actually I'm against all women shortlists, when actually you're providing 50-50 ones yourself.
Yeah. People
are going to opt for the all women shortlist if they have to choose between a halfway policy and a full way policy.
And when I can't remember which ministers I'm thinking of, but there have been quite a few government ministers who've been kind of dabbling in this whole kind of these gender issues, the transgender and stuff.
Yeah.
Which seems to me, again, completely improper areas for Conservatives to be talking about.
Yeah. I just think if you've, you know, you do whatever you want with your life. I think the policies are equal at the moment. I genuinely do. I think we're meddling too much with freedom.
Yeah.
I think we are. I really do think we are. The more we focus on these issues, on these non-issues, the more we focus on them, the more we make them an actual issue. And I think, just, you know, we're meant to focus on the economy. We're meant to focus on Brexit. Just focus on the things that matter, rather than trying to create issues and then solve issues that you made up yourself and, you know, come out as a social justice warrior, because that is not what the Conservative Party is about. Yes,
I think you're right. I one of my objections, you know, obviously I think women should be allowed in the House of Commons, you know, but at the same time, I see how they perform when they get there, and what a lot of them do, and I think this is shaming and very unconservative, is that they start embracing women's issues as in order to climb up the ladder, because they know it's a fashionable thing, and they might as well be Labour MPs by playing the identity politics card that women are a special interest group that needs special treatment, and they go on these panels and they start introducing policies which I think are inimical to conservatism.
I agree. I think what certainly something the party needs to realise is that women are not a minority. They're not minority groups. They are very much protected by democracy. You know, the thing about minorities and giving minorities equal rights was so that, you know, with democracy, you know, the wider population could always, you know, outvote the minorities. That was the worry that was originally came with ethnic minorities and, you know, sexual minorities and, you know, those minority groups. But women don't have that. So, to go up there and be like, speak of women as if they are, as if they're treated differently. They're not. They're very much protected by our democracy. They're very much protected, by our institutions. Everything's equal already. You need to stop. I genuinely do think they need to stop worrying about issues that don't exist.
So what do your contemporaries think when you come up with this stuff? Do they think you're from another planet?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't really pay attention, to be fair.
Well, your teachers, I mean, they must think you're just like a freak, no?
No, not really.
No?
I mean, they've been teaching for quite a long time. I imagine they've come across quite a few people like me.
Yeah, well, maybe a couple. But I mean, look, you say there's 3 Conservatives in your class?
Yeah.
Out of a class of how many?
Oh, I think it's like 16 to 20. I'm not entirely sure, but it's around that.
But the others, are they apolitical or are they all Corbynistas?
Well, some of them are Lib Dem, some of them are Corbynistas, some of them are just. I don't know if we do have any. I don't think we have any Labour moderates. We don't. I don't believe we do.
So politics is quite polarised at the moment. There's nobody, is there anyone who's apolitical?
Yes.
That must be refreshing.
That must be refreshing, but one of them hates Margaret Thatcher, so I don't understand how that's.
Well, that's hardly apolitical. Is
yeah.
It? Yeah.
I mean, they don't think of anything about the Tories or Labour, but they just hate Margaret Thatcher, which I think is just a bit weird.
So, you've had a chance to see a few MPs in action.
Yeah.
And we've got. I mean, tell me what you feel about Theresa May first of all as a leader.
As a person, I don't mind her. I quite like her as a person. I do think she must have been quite strong to get to where she is. But I don't think she's the best leader we've ever had, if I'm honest. I don't like her Brexit proposal. I think it's...
The Chequers plan.
I don't like Chequers. And I think she's getting it very, very wrong. She's getting it very, very wrong. Because the public are against Chequers. They are very clearly against Chequers. And, the whole point of leaving the EU, the whole point of the Brexit referendum was to give the public a voice. Yeah. And if you give a referendum and then ignore the public afterwards, I don't think that's going to end well. Not at all.
Well, you're from the north,
yeah,
where I think possibly disproportionately people voted Brexit. I mean, it matters in the north. Why did they vote Brexit in your experience?
Because I think in the north is a very working class area, and actually I think the north is the most affected by staying in the EU. I think the most affected by the EU, someone who is middle class, upper middle class, living in the south, probably in London, they're not going to get affected by the effects of mass immigration or low skilled immigration. They're not going to get affected by that. It's going to be the working class people in the north. I think that was a big issue for them. And as well, a lot of the working class, a lot of people want control. A lot of them do. They want control of their country back. And the working class, when they see that they're being overruled, they want certain policies and they can't implement them because some commission that they didn't even vote for decides against it. Yeah. I think it's very disheartening for them, and I can see exactly why they wouldn't want to be staying part of the EU. Yes,
I mean, where I live in the country, everywhere was vote leave. You'd see maybe one Remain sign every 200 signs, and the rest were all leaves in every field and every shop window and stuff. Was that your experience where you're from?
Not particularly, no. It was
a mix.
Yeah, it was a mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're from Leeds, right?
Yeah.
Okay, which is sort of medium size. Is it a city or a town?
It's a city.
Right.
Yeah.
Is the cathedral nice?
Pardon?
What's the cathedral like? Is it nice?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. No, I've never been to Leeds for some reason. Would you recommend it?
Yeah. I think it's nice to have a good look around. I wouldn't recommend some areas, but
right. Okay.
Stay away from certain areas.
But what kind of background are you from? Are your parents middle class, working class?
I'd like to think I'm working class. I describe myself as working class, but my father, he was quite rich. He was, I'd say, upper middle class.
Yeah.
But obviously, I cut contact from him, so I kind of want to cut contact from that line of life, which is why I describe myself as working class.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. So your parents are divorced, or?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you now live with your mum.
Yeah.
And she's working class, effectively.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, she's got a master's degree, but
Educated, hyper-educated working class. Yeah. But you live in the north, and you've got a northern accent, which is that's your horny-handed integrity. Yeah. Okay. But so you have a sense that if we didn't get Brexit, I imagine the north would be quite pissed off, wouldn't it?
I think the whole country would be.
Yeah.
I don't think people would be happy with democracy not being implemented. People were promised that their voices would be heard during a Brexit referendum. They were promised, and I don't think people are going to be very happy. That creates a distrust between the government and the people, and that's very dangerous.
Something people are saying about this conference, which is that there's a tremendous disjunct between the events that are going on in the main hall, where the government are actually speaking and outlining Theresa May's non-plans to do nothing, her terrible checkers pants. They're sticking to the party line, and they're getting kind of polite applause, but nothing more. But then there's real kind of fire and excitement on some of the fringe meetings, not the ghastly ones about women in business or whatever, but some of the Brexity ones. I mean, have you noticed that yourself? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, the Boris Johnson event with Conservative Home was today. You had to see the round of he got a standing ovation before he even made the speech.
Yes.
Theresa May has obviously not spoken yet, and I'm pretty sure she's gonna get quite a large following going to the Prime Minister's speeches. But the events that have been organised to support her, they've been very empty, I think, and not that very exciting.
Did you go and see the Farage event?
No.
But so just take me through a few of the runners and riders that you fancy. What did you think about Boris?
What do I think? I quite like him. I think he should be the next Prime Minister. I think if we're going to have a Prime Minister before Brexit, I think he should lead it with the cabinet, with a very strong cabinet with Priti Patel and Jacob Rees-Mogg, and all the Brexiteers. If he's going to be Prime Minister before Brexit, I do like him. There are certain things I don't agree with that he's done, that he's said. The thing with the F business, I didn't agree with that.
Oh, but do you, in that particular case, do you not think he was being misrepresented? He was talking about
he was being misrepresented. I think the media took it out of proportion very much. Yeah. But I do think that is not a very conservative thing to say. However, his views on business, I agree with.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a mistake in your view. What else discomforts you about Boris? Anything?
His unpredictability. I don't think he is very predictable. He's not a very predictable person. Now, that can actually be a good thing sometimes.
If you're Donald Trump.
Yeah. I mean, that can actually be a great thing. I think it's a very good, Boris is the type of person that can smash the political correctness barrier. I think he's that type of person because he is so unpredictable. However, I do think with Brexit, we're going to have to be quite careful. But I do think he'll be the best person that we have leading Brexit.
And you don't worry about his private life or anything like that?
Oh no, not at all. I think that's none of our business, to be honest. I think the media was wrong to actually, with Carrie Symonds, and I think they were wrong.
I know. I wonder how representative you are. I'm totally with you, but I'm wondering whether we're freaks. I don't think we are.
No, the majority of members want him to be Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Not the majority of Parliament, I don't think.
No, but that's because they're all Remainers.
Because they're all Remainers, yeah.
Okay, so Boris is your dream, one of your dream candidates. Where are you on the Jacob? You've seen Jacob, haven't you?
Yeah, I've seen him. With Brexit, I totally agree with Jacob. I think I would like to see the negotiations being between a Super Canada deal, or the one set out by the ARG, and a WTO. And I don't think we should be scared of a WTO Brexit. There is nothing to be scared of. So I completely agree with him on that. His private views, regarding his religion, I don't really care about, to be honest. I don't think they matter anymore. Yes,
it's interesting. I'm often told by expert members of the public that Jacob Rees-Mogg can never possibly win over an electorate with his outmoded views on abortion and homosexuality. But when you scratch beneath the surface and you ask these people about what their politics are, you realize they're all bloody Remainers.
Yeah.
It's not really about Jacob or his religious beliefs.
Yeah.
It's about trying to find an excuse to diss somebody whose ideology they disagree with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've got freedom of expression in this country. He has the freedom to follow his religion. And I don't think that's a problem, because I don't think his religion is ever going to become policy. And I think the fact that the Remainers are taking his religious views and using them against him, I think that speaks a lot for his arguments and the strength of his arguments for Brexit compared to the Remainers.
That's a good point. What, you mean that they haven't really got an effective counter, so they go ad hominem instead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, look, if you can see that, I mean, okay, you are quite a bright 16-year-old, but you are nevertheless 16. If this is obvious to you, I think it ought to be obvious to most people, oughtn't it? This is just common sense.
Well, I suppose, yeah.
So you like Jacob, but probably, could he become Prime Minister?
Could he become... Not now, because I think that every Prime Minister should have some cabinet experience, just because I think it prepares them for the, I think they have to kind of step up the ladder step by step. I'd quite like to see him as Chancellor, I think.
Yeah, but then again, I don't know where you stand. I'm a massive fan of Donald Trump, I have to say.
Right, yeah.
And Donald Trump had never had political experience before he became the most powerful.
He's a businessman.
Yeah.
I think with Donald Trump, he got his experience from his, business. Whereas I think with Jacob Rees-Mogg, he's always been into politics. And actually with, I don't think, Jeremy Corbyn's never had cabinet experience. He's not exactly the best candidate.
I suppose what I'm getting at is, do you not think that we are living in an age of revolutions where anything is possible, where the old rules that you had to serve your time and you had to have been, I don't know, well, the sort of model seems to have been with the Conservatives being a researcher in Conservative Central Office and then getting on the preferred candidates list and, not having any hinterland at all. But now we seem to be in the age of the maverick, that we've got people like Donald Trump being the most obvious example, who are changing everything. So do you think it's not possible that Jacob could be one of those?
No, I think he could be Prime Minister. I think he could be a great Prime Minister. What I just think is I would like to see him in a chancellor, in a cabinet role before he becomes Prime Minister, just to see what he's like, how effective he is. Just because I think, it's all well and good. He's very good at Brexit, but his main focus is on Brexit. And actually, after we leave the European Union, I want to see him on taxes. I want to see how he manages, an economy that might not be the best, I would say.
That of course is the big worry. If we have another 2008, another crash scenario, all bets are off, aren't they? Because that would discredit whoever's in government, regardless of how much it was their fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've mentioned Boris and Jacob. Which of the other Conservative leading lights has attracted your eye or disappointed you greatly?
Oh, God.
Gove. You said something very interesting about Gove.
Yeah.
About his straws policy. Tell me about that.
I originally agreed with him, but now I don't. I don't think banning straws is, I like some of Gove's policies, but with the banning straws thing, I think there was a better way to decrease the amount of plastic that goes in the oceans. I think a free market solution would have been encouraging, the introduction of straws that are made from cornstarch.
Yeah.
I think in pushing companies to take that instead is actually going to reduce the price of those straws in the long run, and that is a better free market solution than just outright banning straws.
Yes. Again, this seems obvious to me, but not obvious to Mr. Gove. Isn't it slightly worrying that a 16-year-old girl knows more about what Conservative principles are than the current Conservative Environment Minister? And I love Gove, by the way, but I was very very disappointed when he did that.
Yeah, I mean, at the time I agreed with him, but now I just think there are better solutions. You know, there are better solutions. And who are we to take away people's choice? Who are we? Who is the government? Maybe someone likes using plastic straws. Who are you to tell them not to?
Can I say, I like using plastic straws, because you know what you drink through plastic straws? Cocktails.
Yeah.
And cocktails are just great. I mean, cocktails are one of the best things that were ever invented. And the idea that one can't drink them through plastic straws anymore I find upsetting. I mean, you know, maybe the odd turtle does have to die for my cocktail taste, and there it is. I'm a human and they're not. Okay, so we've dispensed brutally with the Gove. Who else? I think Gove is a brilliant man, but I mean, I hope you get to meet him. I hope when we're wandering around, we you know, we'll bump into him, and I can show you how nice he is, really. Who else do you rate? Priti Patel?
Yeah, I quite like Priti Patel. Again, I would like to see her in a cabinet position for longer. I don't see that spark that someone with a leadership quality would have yet. I think with some more experience in cabinet, she could be possibly someone in the future. I don't know, 10, 20 years. That could.
I think more importantly, I want to know who you can't stand.
Who I can't stand? Oh, Anna Soubry.
Yeah.
Justin Greening.
Yeah, good choice so far. Yeah. These are all Remainers, aren't they?
Yeah,
that's part of the
the
problem.
ones that are going for the people's vote, I can't stand. I can't stand someone who says they're a Conservative, joins a Conservative party, and stands against democracy. I genuinely, I don't think they can call themselves Conservatives, you know, when they take that position.
How did this even happen? How did the Conservative Party get taken over by all these entryists, all these kind of... I mean, they're Lib Dems.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weird thing about the Conservative Party. We're taking in kind of the right of the Lib Dems to the left of... Well, UKIP was a new party, and most of it was... I wouldn't say left of UKIP, but, you know, to the left of the right people. We're a very broad church, and I think we didn't used to be. And the really, really broad church is causing us problems. I think that's what it is.
There's an argument that says, look, I think that you and I are both more or less Thatcherites, and actually there is an argument which Martin Durkin, I think, made, which is that Margaret Thatcher wasn't really a Conservative. She was more of a radical, and that actually the current bunch of utter squishes that we've got dominating the party, dominating at least the government, are actually more representative of what Conservatism looks like.
I don't think that's the case. I mean, you can make the argument that Thatcher was a liberal because of her economic policies.
She was a classical liberal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she had, you know, but you can make that argument, but I don't think you can say that she wasn't a Conservative, because any radical change that she made it to protect the traditional values that Britain had. And I think that is a very important thing. Conservatism is about conserving our values, and because she was making those changes to conserve our values, to conserve Britain, she was very much a Conservative. Now, going back and, you know, turning against democracy, you know, wanting to stay under the EU, which is not very democratic, I don't think that's conservatism. That is not conservatism. Not conservatism at all, because actually staying under the EU is eroding our culture. The EU is eroding our values, and that, I don't think standing up for that is a Conservative thing.
You persuaded me. Where are you on? I'm just going to troll you here. Dominic Grieve. But you shouldn't have to think about it. He's horrible. He's like worse than Anna Soubry, because I tell you why. So I'm putting thoughts into your head here, but the reason he's worse than Anna Soubry, Anna Soubry, you can just kind of laugh at her because she rants away like a sort of demented fishwife, but Dominic Grieve is slightly sort of sinister. He's kind of hasn't he got some French award? Hasn't he got the Légion d'honneur or something? I mean, he's not really one of us. He's a continental.
I mean, the thing, I don't really have that much of a big opinion on him. You know, he's there.
But he's. I tell you what, he's very anti-Brexit.
Yeah, but he is very anti-Brexit. Yeah, and that's why I don't like him. Well, the thing is, I don't like him because he's an anti-Brexit person, anti-democracy, anti-conservatism. I don't think he should be in the Conservative Party. I don't think that is the values that he should be having. But on other policies, I'm not quite entirely sure where he stands.
No, but it's all about Brexit, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're listening to the Delingpole podcast with me, James Delingpole, and my very special guest. Oh my God,
Soutiam Goodarzi.
Thank you, Soutiam. I'm getting worn down by all this.
Breitbart News Tonight with Joel Pollack and Rebecca Mansour.
A lot of people not knowing what action they could or should take to make the difference. What I do is try to turn people on to sites like Breitbart, people who are writing and publishing the truth so that people will get educated. But, you kind of can't blame productive members of society who are kind of confused, perplexed as to what do we do to take this government back.
Sirius XM Patriot Channel 125.
This is Delingpole, a Breitbart.com podcast. Here once again is James Delingpole.
Welcome back to the Delingpole podcast with me, James Delingpole, and my special guest, Soutiam Goodarzi, whose name I got perfectly right then. Yeah, good. Phew. Soutiam, I just know that the dream scenario for, well, in a different party perhaps, a different party conference, you could go on the main stage and outline your conservative beliefs, and you would just get the biggest standing ovation since William Hague was a baby, and he asked that question of Margaret Thatcher, and everyone was thought, oh, isn't he a clever boy? But you would. They'd absolutely love it, because let's be cynical. They'd love the fact you're a woman, and they'd love your fact that you're an ethnic, or you're BAME, or whatever the ghastly politically correct term is. But I think you should exploit that. I mean, you don't like shortlists and stuff, and you don't like positive discrimination or whatever. But we need people like you. How are we going to get more in for the cause of? I mean, the broader church of conservatism. Why is it failing?
I think it's failing just because the centre of conservatism, the right of the Lib Dems are very, very different, to the rest of the really, really right wingers. They're very different ideologically, and because we've got such a clash, that's causing problems. And with the MPs right now, they're mostly Remainers, aren't they? But the reason that they're mostly Remainers, you have to look at why they're mostly Remainers, why they don't represent the demographics of the country. Because actually, if you look at the demographics of the country, the vast majority of seats are Leave, and you have to look at that. And I think the party itself is taking quite, to the right of the Lib Dems approach, and that is causing problems because it's silencing the people that were originally in the Conservative Party, and they're more right wing than the Lib Dems are.
I think that's absolutely true, and presumably this is Cameron, certainly, who was partly responsible for that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mind Cameron, despite the fact that he was a Remainer. I think his fiscal conservatism approach, with the economy, the austerity, I agreed with that. I think that
was it even real austerity? Because it wasn't
real. No, it wasn't real austerity. But the fact that he was, he made the economy better. I agreed with that. But I think with everything else, he wasn't a right winger. He wasn't. And from Cameron until now, we're getting more left and more left and more left as we go on. And I think that is a real problem in the Conservative Party.
Because I think the point you make about Remain and Brexit is a good one, in as much as you hear people sometimes say, well, let's just get over this EU thing, let's just move on from that and talk about the real issues. But it seems to me that whether an MP is Remain or Brexit actually speaks of much deeper ideological problems. That to be a Remainer isn't just about believing that Britain is better off in the EU. It's also about subscribing to a whole value set of kind of squishy political assumptions, which I would say are not conservative.
Yeah, I agree. You have to look at the reasons why we want to leave the EU. The reasons why we want to leave the EU are conservative reasons. Therefore, to go against leaving the EU that's not very conservative.
Yeah.
And I think that is the case for a lot of the MPs.
So what do you think Conservatives should believe, base level?
They should believe in maintaining traditional values and economic liberalism.
Right. So we're talking tax, low tax?
Low tax, yeah, small state,
Yeah. When you've been going around the conference, meeting people of your, well, probably a bit older than you, but what do you find? What are their politics?
Well, a lot of the people I talk to are mostly Thatcherites. They're against Chequers, they're very pro-Brexit. The majority of people who voted for Conservatives, 70% were pro-Brexit, and actually that speaks for the ideology. The majority, the Leave ideology, well, it's not an ideology, but the ideology behind Leave was a Conservative ideology. Yeah. And I think that links. I
find this, sometimes when I'm trying to give hope to my special podcast listening friend, my special friend, I reassure them that that Generation Z. Are you Generation Z, or are you an even later? Is it?
I'm in later generation.
What are you called?
I don't know.
Wow. You're the first person on the podcast. By the way, you're not the first Iranian on the podcast.
Yeah.
We've had Baz Shemirani, who's also Iranian, which is weird, isn't it? I mean, I think you're about the only. Okay, we've had Americans, we've had Canadians, Australians, but I think you're the only kind of more exotic country we've had on. So two lots of Iranians. Where was I? What was I talking about?
Giving hope to your...
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I give you hope to my special friend, which is that your generation, which is so new it hasn't even got a name yet.
I don't think it does. Right. I'm not entirely sure.
But that you're getting more and more sound, more and more kind of solidly conservative and red meat. Like you really want limited government. You want...
Yeah.
Some of the kids I was talking to yesterday, they wanted strong law and order. They wanted bobbies on the beat. They wanted tougher sentences for criminals.
Absolutely, same.
Is that where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's ridiculous that, the rapists especially, they're getting such small sentences. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous.
We've got to talk about that, actually, about the rape gangs.
Yeah.
Now, what's your perspective on that?
I think they need to be stopped, and I think we should need to be less politically correct about it. I think it's not even politically correct anymore. It's diving into the realm of stupidity, the way we're approaching the issue. I mean, I quite like what Sajid Javid's doing, which is like issuing an inquiry into the race of the people in the grooming gangs. I think that is a very big part of it, because it's obviously not about race, but it's about culture. What is in those cultures that is causing them to be disproportionately Asian? And I think that is something that we really need to be talking about right now.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I think it's because we live in such a politically correct culture where everyone treads on eggshells where race and religion are concerned, particularly Islam. I think people don't want to acknowledge why it might be. I mean, I think predominantly they're from they're Kashmiri Pakistanis, aren't they? They're I think. And what it might be culturally, religiously that makes them do these things. And surely one of them has got to be the ingrained misogyny in the religion and that particular culture. But two, a kind of, is it not a form of conquest? It's saying, look, here we are. We don't want to be your friends. We look on you as you are kuffar, you are inferior, because they're not raping Muslim girls, are they? They're raping Sikhs and white girls. Yeah,
I mean, I read a book on this quite a while ago. It was written by a victim, and the way she was talking about it in the book, and it was a real incredibly sad book. She was talking about they do. They look at them as white girls, and the kuffars, and they're they don't follow the religion, and they've got a very twisted sense of morals, and they think that actually you have to follow their set of morals, or else you're a kuffar, and you're a bad person, you're going to go to hell, you're going to get punished. I just think it's very twisted.
Yeah. So do these things get talked about at all in your school?
No, not at all.
Really?
Not at all.
is it because people don't know about it, or because people want to pretend it's not happening?
I have no idea, because it's not talked about, so you don't know where it's causing, where the problem's coming from.
What about your previous school?
Not at all.
So you're in your previous school particularly, you would have been in the age group, which is sort of 11 to 15.
Yeah.
When the worst, that's where they target most of the people. And so your age group was being targeted, and yet nobody was talking about it.
No, I didn't even know about it then.
How did you find out about it?
I read a book on it, and then I read that particular book on it, and then just realised, with the news. When I got involved in politics, it was coming up on Twitter and all the news articles. I was just like, this is sick. Why is no one doing anything about this?
That's extraordinary. But you were, this was presumably at a state school.
Yeah.
So you'd have thought that there are probably girls at that school. Well, I mean, statistically, it's highly likely that there were girls at your school who have been sexually abused.
Yeah.
This was in Leeds.
Yeah.
Have there been rape gangs in Leeds?
Yeah, there have. I've heard that there were. So there have been, yeah. And it's quite weird. Perhaps no one wanted to talk about them. It's a scary thing. You don't want to know that you're living in a world which is quite dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's. I mean, this is a conversation I can't normally have because I think a lot of Muslims would find it uncomfortable talking about this, and I don't meet many Muslim girls from the north of England, or ex-Muslim girls. What do you think is the way forward for community? I mean, is it going to get worse and worse? Are we going to get more and more separate communities?
Yes, the way we're going, yes. I genuinely do. That's because, large amounts of immigration, when you've got large amounts of immigration, integration becomes very, very hard. It becomes almost impossible, the rate we're having it now. And that is, that causes a problem, because that means that the same values, you have to understand certain countries have very different values. They've got much more twisted values than we do here in Britain, in modern Western Britain. And when immigration's quite hard, then immigration's quite high, integration becomes impossible, and those values get transported over to Britain.
It becomes impossible what? Because when people come here, they automatically gravitate to their home communities, and
there is an element of that. It also becomes quite hard for the government to do anything about it. If you've got low levels of immigration and you go into a school. I mean, you go into a school. It's a majority white school with Western values that are taught, and that helps with integration. I mean, the first school I came to. When I came to London, the first school I went to was a majority Muslim school, a majority Arab school, and we had English classes for people who just came to the country. But the values that were taught were very different. I remember there was an incident where two girls kissed each other. It was just two girls, and actually the way the school treated them for kissing each other. Now that I look at it, that's not Western. If you do that now in any other school, whatever. But they actually got talks from the teachers. They got sanctions for it. They had to face the consequences for that. So really,
were the teachers at this school Muslim?
My teacher wasn't, but and a few others weren't. But they could all speak Arabic, except my teacher, because she was Australian. But the rest of them could speak Arabic.
Really?
Because they were teaching so many, Arab girls and boys.
Interesting. Well, it was a mixed school.
It was a mixed school, yeah.
Right. And what about the kind of what was the religious education like in the school? Was that quite?
We didn't get any.
Right. But did a kind of a sort of Muslim or Islamist agenda creep into the teaching, would you say?
Not into the teaching, I would say, just because the teaching was very, it was just maths and English and, that sort of thing. But between the students it was, because I remember once I was playing, with the boys, I didn't mind at the time, and one of the girls came over and she went, "That's haram." I was like, right, seriously, this is in modern Britain, and you're telling me that me playing with a boy is haram? I was 9 then, or 10, 9/10.
And did you carry on playing with the boys?
Yeah.
And you didn't get any more hassle for it?
No.
But she obviously believed, and did you say it in a kind of sort of smart-ass way, or just the kind of...
Did she say it?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just... I think that age is too young for religion, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't think at that age you can decide what you believe in, whether you believe in a God or whether you don't believe in a God. And it's really incredibly sad that at that age they are, you know, you believe that you're going to go to hell if you play with boys. You know, that is a common thing. That is part of childhood.
Yeah. Well, at least a part of the Western childhood. So, like you, I worry about this future in which our communities, the majority, you know, English, you know, Caribbean assimilated people, or, you know, people who've imbibed British culture, are going to be at loggerheads with these communities, which might just as well be Kashmir or Kashmiri or Saudi, for all the differences, for all the attempts they've made to integrate. So what are we going to do about that? What should the government be doing?
This is really difficult, because actually what can the government do is the question. What can you do about, you know, people are free to live as they want. What can you do about people going into one area? And I think tougher sentences, actually. Abolish all faith schools, abolish them all. We don't need them.
So you wouldn't even keep, because Catholic schools are...
Yeah, Catholic schools are fine. But I mean, I don't think that children can decide on a religion at 5 years old, 6 years old. I don't think they can.
Do you think, for example, that little girls should be, that school uniforms should not include the veil?
Do I think at that age? No, I don't think they should include the veil.
What age would you start?
16.
16.
Because I think that's the age that, you know, 16's the age where you can consent to sex. So I think that's the age where you can consent to a religion. Right.
But of course, then you there's an argument that you wouldn't necessarily be consenting, because probably your family would put, your brothers would put pressure on you.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can't stop that. I can't see a way to stop that. But at least at 16, at least, you know, if you're starting from an age from, you know, whenever you go to school up to 16, at least in that era, you're seen as secular. You're seen as a secular member of society, and you get to experience life as a secular member of society. Yeah. And I think that is a very valuable thing than, you know, the brainwashing that's being done at the moment.
Do you think that at the moment the government is too lax in its sort of acceptance of these kind of this cultural war that's being waged on it, because that's what it is.
I think they are, you know, they are too accepting. I think the grooming gangs, you know, the amount of time it took for them to even for them to get even noticed, and it actually takes someone from a Pakistani heritage to even talk about the fact that they are, you know, Asian grooming gangs. Yeah. I think that says a lot about the identity politics that's been going on, and the fact that you have to be from that race to be able to talk about that. I think that is a very big issue that's been going on.
So how are we going to escape all this? Do you think there's going to be a backlash?
I think there's going to be a backlash, and I don't think it's going to be a good one. As in, I think in, you know, 20, 30 years' time, people are going to get tired. People are going to get tired, and we're not going to have sensible parties coming to solve this. We're going to have the real far right. It's not the far rights that people, you know, throw the word around right now, but real far right parties that are going to emerge. And I think that's going to cause problems.
Yeah, yeah. I think on that really cheery note, we're going to end there. That was a fantastic Soutiam Goodarzi. Sorry, Soutiam Goodarzi. Soutiam, you're fantastic, and you're going to get a lot of love from the podcast. A special friend, I'm sure. So thank you very much. This is the Delingpole podcast. Thank you and goodbye.
Sonny's Corner with Sonny Johnson.
I want to actually take a couple of the references to Donald Trump from hip-hop. And then we're going to try to see if we can figure out why they like Donald Trump. Jay-Z said, I'm at the Trump International. Ask for me. Raekwon said, I'm the black Trump. They are comparing themselves to what he represents. His wealth, his achievement, capitalism.
Sonny's Corner with Sonny Johnson. Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. East on Sirius XM Patriot 125.